the metals. Today we have a good friend of ours, Durga Magneta, psychedelic integration coach or plant medicine integration coach, energy work, and intuitive readings. I'm going to have her introduce herself, and we're going to talk a little bit about today about integration and intuitive readings.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Durga Magneta. I'm an empathic healer. I consider myself an empowerment guide. I do intuitive readings, and I also really love helping people to heal trauma, whether it's through energy work or the use of entheogenics.
Can we talk a little bit about that? How people come off these medicines, and they have a lot of questions because we're given a lot sometimes off of these journeys. So let's take an approach to like somebody that just have come off their medicine and they come to you. Show us what that looks like.
Well, first you want to talk about what the experience was like for them and the insights that they gained. And you know how that is, you get so many insights, even within an hour, and some of these journeys are 5 hours. So you want to make sure that you note right away the insights that they have gained and how they feel. You want to make note of how they feel different outside of the journey, even physically, because energy has been removed on a cellular level during the journeys, and a lot of like the dense energy, the trauma has been released. So you want, every time you note the benefits and the improvements, you can build on the plant medicine experience, because besides that, it's just an experience, like reading a good book and having it fade away from your mind.
Yeah, me and Michelle say that all the time, and a lot of others in this community that have really worked this, and we know how this works with these plant medicines and all these, any kind of real hard change you have. It just, working with integration is the key. But you did say something about the things you remember in your experience. How about a lot of these experiences, you don't remember some things, but you kind of do remember. And I remember in the very beginning, I couldn't voice those. I didn't even know what it was. So how do you manage that, or how do you work through that?
Well, for me, I can use my gifts and actually read and see and talk to the person's soul and their spiritual guidance as far as what the difference was, what they saw, and the karmic patterns that are being broken by the process, and how to move forward in life, integrating that and with a new mindset and a new frequency.
These tools that you just said, new mindset, new frequency. Why do you think these work so, I say easily, but why do you think the catalyst is there when with these plant medicine journeys, that these, in that first few weeks, if you can catch somebody in that first few week time frame, these medicines really have that ability to like indoctrinate a lot of good things.
Yes, well, as you know, and I'm sure you talk about, it's you really want to work with intention. You really want to set the stage, because going into any of these journeys without an intention, it's just another party, right? So we're not using it in that way anymore. It's intentional. And if you use it with intention, it's a whole other realm and it's a whole other experience.
Intentions. What happens when, because this has happened to myself, when you really don't know what your intentions are, but you know that there's something there, but you can't pinpoint it. How do you work with that?
Well, so intention is, and it really can be as simple as, show me how you heal. Show me where inside I'm still holding on to the past in a way that is toxic. Like, you can just start real simple like that. Like, your intention is to heal, but also to understand how that particular medicine helps you to heal. So just start there.
Yeah. Well, that's a really great answer, because that's kind of what I do when I go when I don't really know. I do know what my intention is, but I don't really know. I just want to feel better. I just want to heal. Give me that gift or that ability to see that.
Yeah, it's really that simple. I wouldn't make it more complicated, because it just doesn't need to be.
Good. That's great. That, because a lot of people try, we almost think, like I've sat in as being and sitting in many medicine ceremonies, volunteering and whatnot, and being participants and facilitators. I always see that people really work so hard in trying to find an intention when it can be just that easy, as me and you just said. Just that easy. You're searching, like we are in our life, for something that is already there, making sense. It's just sometimes we got to make it a little easier, a little simple.
Yeah, well, just start there and then see where the journey takes you. And then and then what you do is your consciousness starts raising. And then you take a week, maybe less, depends on what you're doing. So most of the medicines you need to take a lot of time. But then you notice where you're getting tripped up. Like you're more conscious of, wow, I see that pattern. I see how I keep doing that. Why do I keep getting in my own way, etc. And you make a list of those things as so that's what your homework is in between journeys. And then you set the next intention, focusing in on what you're noticing as far as just old patterning, negativity, toxic behavior, just how you feel in your body. So then the experiences build on themselves.
They experiences definitely build on themselves, all of them. And the more we grow, sometimes the more we see, we maybe find it harder to, the more we are on this path, we kind of find it, at least for myself, sometimes I find it harder to find those things that I'm at fault at, even though I know there's so much change still to be reckoned with. So I don't think on this path there's ever an end game.
No, but there's expedited growth though, and that can be very useful. And the thing, especially with the dissociative medicines, is you can witness yourself without feeling the pain of whatever the pattern is, because it hurts people to realize that they might be doing something wrong, quote unquote, where you're not. You're just learning and growing. It's an opportunity to grow. This can help you to see where you're at and say, oh, I didn't realize that I was doing that. Not a big deal. Let's work on it.
Absolutely. Not a big deal. That's right. But there is definitely different integrations to all these medicines. Don't you agree? I mean,
Yes.
I'm sitting with all these medicines. I mean, from iboga to ayahuasca to psilocybin. There's an integration process to all these. And can you break those down and what you think they are to each medicine? We'll start with ayahuasca. What do you think?
Well, I gotta tell you that the experience is different. The gift of the medicine is different, but I want to say the integration could be the same. That's You have to understand how the different medicines, the experience of the different medicines, how they impact you, but it's all going to lead to the truth. It's all going to lead to healing, and that I can help people maneuver through understanding and preparing for the different medicines, but I think the integration is actually going to be the same.
Hmm.
Just as far as higher truth and integrating them into life, I don't see the difference.
Yeah, I guess you're absolutely right there. There might be a difference in time length. Yeah, you're very truth with that.
Mhm.
There is no difference because it's all about change. It's all about recognizing yourself and what you're doing. So it's pretty interesting. This integration is just so important on this path into all these things we do, because, this is about changing ourselves. I mean, there's no magic wand to this medicine or to any of this right here. But I truly feel in so many that this is it. There's breakthroughs here that doesn't happen in talk therapy, that doesn't happen with the typical antidepressants. And, I
Mm.
think integration besides the medicine is 90% of this.
The integration, well, um, the thing with any healing, and first of all, I want to say that I healed a lot of big deal trauma without the use of medicine, and then when the medicine got introduced, it seems like I would say it's the difference between riding a bicycle and driving a Porsche. It's just like, "Whir."
Mhm.
But there is a natural healing that happens in the body. Basically, the medicine cleans out the nervous system so that a person can start feeling safe enough to be in their body again. And then once they're in their body, you turn into a self-healing mechanism where the density and the blockages come up on their own. And then it's important to stay present and real and feel things and let it. And the more you do that, it moves up quicker and quicker.
You just brought up the conversation I was going to bring up next, cleansing. How these medicines have that power to cleanse. It's especially ayahuasca and iboga. Those two are they're cleansers. And me and Michelle say it all the time, and we talk to people all the time. The purging, your body after 30, 40, 50 years just integrates that trauma down and mostly in the gut. And that's where our brains, really our chemistry of all our reactions come from. And until we really get down there and get rid of that, it's really hard to work through the rest. It really is. For me at least.
Yeah. So you are right that it gets stored in various parts, as the womb and the root. A lot of us have that from early childhood. However,
Mhm.
when I was studying this, when I was drawn by my soul to uncover my only way to heal, I actually found that it can be stored in different parts of the body, random parts. I had trauma in my arm, and it was causing carpal tunnel
Hmm.
symptoms, and physical therapy and all that stuff. And it was just like I just moved the energy and it stopped happening.
That is very interesting. So, will you talk about moving energy a lot, and that is something that you're very good at and what you do. Can we talk about moving energy and what that really consists of for people that really don't know?
Yeah, so it can be some very few, but some physical illnesses are just environmental, or as we get older and things like that. I think there's even some wiggle room with that. But if a client comes to me with heaviness in their body, or just an emotional narrative that's toxic that just keeps playing over and over, what you can do is learn to say, where is this in my body? The medicine definitely can help expedite that process. And once you tune into it, so as an empathic healer, I can tune into it and give it a voice. And there's a real sad narrative. It's very victimizing. It's very self-defeating that comes
Hmm.
up. But once you give it a voice and you're real with it and you feel it, and it kind of moves up, it actually removes itself from the cells. So you don't have to keep, some of it does come in layers. The more brutal trauma comes in layers, but a lot of it just, it wants to leave. It actually wants to leave you. It's crying for us to be more present with ourselves.
Would you say that's your inner child?
A lot of it is inner child work. Not only, you know what, not to get all deep, but let's get deep because that's what we're doing. It's real.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's past life stuff. There's cellular memory from the past lives. It isn't. I wouldn't say it's the majority of it, but I've had a lot of that come up,
Hmm.
especially recently.
And I think people, I don't think we really recognize that. I don't think, and even especially in the last 20, 30 years, we don't really recognize our ancestors too much at all anymore. Like we go past to our grandfather, and that's about all we really remember. When all we are is DNA. I mean, when it comes down to it, we're just DNA, and we're just lineages of the next and the next and the next. Some of us, you know, truly believe what you say is so true because I think that's how we all are because I think when we come out of the mother's womb we don't want to be this person but we're created to what we already know.
Well, so there is a DNA healing that's happening. A lot of us are in our families to eliminate the or stop the patterning. Like this pattern stops with me. The neglect or the abuse or the imbalances, a lot of us are doing that. So there is a level of healing that comes from the DNA, but then you have a soul with its own past.
What's the difference for you
Usually
or
you're oscillating between the two in a healing.
explain can you explain what that difference is because that's pretty deep right there. What's the difference between the DNA process of this and your soul process?
Well, it's just that you're healing pathologies through the family lineage that probably do look similar to what your soul has done before, but you're going to find a wide variant of. I think it's bigger with just your soul and your soul's mission and journey. And not only that, but it's a real fine line because your karmic patterns are in alignment with the family you choose to incarnate with. So it's a real fine line, I think. And I wouldn't
Say
spend
that,
too much time with worrying about that.
let's say that again. Your has the family that you did what with? I'm sorry. You said it's the family you've been. Your fine line comes with the family you've been learning with, or you were.
Oh, well, just say you have lots of past lives of being enslaved or not having a voice, which I have
Mhm.
coincidentally, and you can incarnate into a family where you have that neglect, you don't have a voice. there's different types of abuse, so it's like it's lessons this way, but then the karmic patterns come in. I know that that's really confusing, but your soul's trying to evolve itself in a particular way, and it can learn through the DNA and family lines, and it can learn through this past life experiences.
So, do you think that? That's a really that's a really deep conversation. So I don't think a
Mm.
lot of people understand where we're going, but that's really cool to
We
think
we
about.
can reel it back.
Yeah, with the
Yeah.
soul, because the soul, I really got in touch with the soul on my Iboga journey, even though through many other journeys with plant medicines, I saw my soul, but it was my inner child more. But really on the Iboga journey, did I become one with a soul, really, actually, and to see that and to be taught to it and to know that it was something maybe a little different than my inner child. It was really cool. So, I mean, a soul is, we look at these visions and these ghosts and these this and these that, but a soul is you. I mean, soul's like
Mm.
us, what we are. So I don't know. I think this is a really cool conversation. And, I don't think people adapt to this so much as that's is who we really are, is we come from lineages and we come from these places. And, like you said, I never thought about that we get thrown in these kind of families when we are brought here, that it does put us in a battle. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, so one of the things I would love to bring up about medicine is I had studied with a yoga lineage, which I'll ever always be grateful for, and they always taught us that we are we are God incarnate.
Hmm.
Basically, that's a lot of the old Eastern philosophies and teachings. We are that, the Satguru. And one of the things I love about medicine is in certain medicines, it can bring you to the point where that is your experience and that is your realities, that you are like everything and you are the bigger part of yourself and you're incredibly powerful. And it really hits that home as a reality, and it turns it from theory to real experience.
Yeah, yeah, it does. It surely does, especially the God concept. The God concept in not an arrogant way, but you know, who's like we asked this lady yesterday for on a session. We asked her, and we're like, "What do you believe of God?" And everything she was talking about was, it always comes back to you. I mean, you're talking to yourself. I mean, these are my beliefs. I don't portray these on anybody else, but
Yeah.
truly, I believe that God is us.
Yeah, people can resonate with whatever they're going to, but it's the thing with great higher power is we're coming to an age where it's not going to be ambiguous anymore, and it really is real. It isn't just a belief, it's actually reality. You can
And what do
resonate
you
with that or not, but
What
mm,
do you see that? What do you meaning by that? Talk a little bit about what you're seeing. What you say about that.
the Aquarian age is setting in, the fifth dimensional realm is setting into the earth, and that's why we're doing a lot of cleanup work in our own cellular bodies and in the planet and everything. That's why everything's so chaotic. Is it's time to come back to an eternal sense of oneness and peace, and stop living in fear base and greed.
Mm. I truly believe that. I don't think. I hopefully it happens sooner than later, but I guess everything's in time and everything is relevant with time. So it
Yeah,
is
it's starting to
happening.
be tangible. It is start The consciousness itself is starting to be tangible, where people are going to start noticing not living in a fear-based mentality and finding that strange.
Yeah, it hits home when it really, your life becomes a lot better when you don't live like that. You know,
Well, it was
but it's hard
completely
to get out of it.
unnecessary. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Mark.
No, no, very unnecessary. I mean, we live in a fear-based world, and that's been created by, you know, this is not how we're supposed to be living. I mean, this fear-based, this craziness is just insanity. It's absolutely insanity, and I watch my family members and people around, and they're just so stuck in it. And when we get out of it, and when you look at it from a different perspective, it's really crazy how many things we're really scared of. And fear is the thing we should really leap into and not run away from.
Yeah, so a lot of the fear-based thinking is trauma related, and it's also the inner child related too, where it's just basically saying, "I don't feel safe in this. I don't feel safe in this," and we're just kind of ignoring it. We're numbing it out, and that's the other thing with with plant medicines, the intention to only use it to grow and only use it when it calls you, and not to ever avoid the healing process itself, because or the discomfort of that.
Yeah.
Keep it
Yeah.
your friend.
Yeah, definitely is the case with plant medicine, because it does bring you that euphoria feeling when you're coming off that medicine. You're really good, but that's the time to work. That's when the work happens.
Mm.
This medicine, like you say, should be your friend. It shouldn't be something that we turn to like an addiction. This should be your friend, a coping mechanism, a tool. That's
Well,
all.
not a coping mechanism, because
Sorry,
that's
that was
when
one
you're
word.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
trying to use it like you can get addicted to microdosing psilocybin.
Of course you can. Of course. There's Because I think at that point it becomes kind of a mindset. All addictions I kind of are in your mind. I mean, I'm a true believer that I have healed at a cellular level. I mean, and when you do heal at a cellular level, labels aren't there anymore. Labels shouldn't be there. And addiction's a big label that a lot of people can't overcome, especially in groups like AA. I mean, they label you in AA every day, and that's not the way of the world.
Yeah, it's just something to keep in it's just something for the community to keep in mind, that there's also an intention that you're respecting the medicine and using it, and it's never to numb out, because the medicine's bringing you to a very important process that we have to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, kinda unfortunately quite a bit, and then it does stop happening eventually.
Yeah. Because like we just said, fear, uncomfortability, all those are all growths. When you're uncomfortable and you're not liking something, you're fearful. And it's just, man, I go into those. I don't always go into them knowingly I'm going into those, but I've known now that sometimes you walk into that stuff because no matter what, something good's going to come out of it. So it's all good. Now let's talk a little bit. You talked about offering energy work and things of this nature. Is there something about that difference between that and intuitive readings?
Yes, the intuitive readings helps people to see higher perspective why they're going through their struggles, because every struggle is evolving them to the next level. And I find that once people understand what they're learning and how they're growing, they feel much more empowered, and they can get through these lessons easier and with less heartache.
So an intuitive reading wouldn't be like reading cards or something like that.
I do
It's
use
actually,
cards. I do use cards, and I don't mind peeking at someone's future to give them a little hope. But it's not
Mhm,
about controlling life through using those gifts to control life.
mhm.
It's more about enlightenment and empowerment and validation, and having hope and a little hope for the future.
So validation, good or bad? I mean, see, that's something I should have used a lot either. Validation, I guess, because a lot of times we look for validation sometimes when we don't need it. But validation is also like it gives
Mm.
you something too, you
Well,
know?
let me just clear what that is up. Is that people always, the deep in your gut and your own intuitive sense, you know what you have going on and why. But until somebody says, "Yeah, that's what's going on," you don't really trust it. So it just helps people to trust themselves. And as far as good and bad, it's more like, I don't mean to get all like metaphysical on you, but it's like I don't really see that there's a lot of bad. I think if you know what's up, you might not like it, you could label it as bad, but if you know what's up and it gets validated, then you can handle it better than you would have if you didn't understand it.
Yeah. I don't really like using good and bad anyway. Sometimes that slips out because good and bad, what is good and bad? Some people could be different. I used to say that a lot in the beginning of my journeys. Am I doing okay? Am I good? Is this good? Is this bad? And, I learned that nothing's good, nothing's bad. It's just all learns. It's all learning experiences. And that's what we should be doing. We should be evolving and we should be learning. We shouldn't be just sitting still being fearful, because that's what fear is, just sitting still and doing nothing.
Yeah, well, it's feeding a lot of energy into something that's not really bringing a solution. And
Mm,
it's dangerous to the physical body. It's
yeah.
wasting the adrenals.
Yeah. Energy's big. People don't realize, I mean, the real world, 3D, people want to just, because you mentioned a lot, 5D. I really truly believe this. But I think energy is it's everything. It's
Mm.
really everything. And we don't, even me, I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. I just don't, sometimes I don't even see it as much until I talk to people like yourself. It just sometimes just goes by the wayside, but it's very important. It's very important with a lot of things we do every day because, like you said, we waste a lot of energy on that negativity.
Yeah, well, it's really hard. It's really hard to help that from happening, but it's a call for healing.
Yeah, but how can you heal when you can't see it? It's this is such a process, and we go deeper and deeper.
Yeah, well, I mean, so basically people are living in fight or flight, and unless you're getting chased by prey, you don't need to feel like that. And if you're in that, that just means it's a call for healing. So if you feel just petrified or toxic or just sick with worry, that's a call to heal. And it isn't productive.
Definitely not productive. So Durga, you are psychedelic or just basically an integration coach, correct?
Hmm. Hmm.
You do intuitive readings
Hmm.
and you also offer energy work, correct?
Yes.
What's the name of your website?
Free to be authentic.
Okay. Very, very great conversation today. I think a lot of people will enjoy this. You are out there in the community, you are bringing a voice, you're educating and informing, and that's what we need right now. That's what we need. Thank you, Durga.
Yeah, thanks so much. It was so nice. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.
All right. Bye.
Bye.